Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Vav in Sota. We're at the Mishnah, halfway down the page on Daf Vav. We learned for a full shleimer for Akiva ben Chaya Rachel. The following women who are the Sotas, the alleged adulterers, and if they're married to a Kohen, they cannot eat truma. At what point do we say they can eat truma? We said, of course, once they had kini and stira, however many eating you need, then she goes through the process. The process that we're going to start describing is not only the drinking of the water, which miraculously works and determines whether she is guilty or not. She also, part of the process is bringing a carbon, and you first have a star written out. They write out on parchment the parsha and the Torah, and they put that in the water, etc. As a whole process goes on, and that produces the mei hamorim ha'arurim, the bitter water that she has to drink. And there's a carbon that's brought before. She brings a carbon, as we'll see, the carbon sota. Now, the following women, if they're married to a Kohen, they can't eat truma. Meaning, if they're not married to a Kohen, they're anyway also to their husbands. But they're also, it tells you an example. The proof is if they're married to a Kohen, they can't eat truma. That shows that they're a sota, and they can't drink. They don't drink, meaning they're just forbidden and they have to leave the marriage. For example, what are they? Homeris Tmanilach. She says, I admit that I committed adultery. Homeris Tmanilach, I'm defiled. Yes, I can't marry. Bishabo Adam Sheetmila, or Adam came and said that she was forbidden. Now we learned before, if there's Kini and Sira and 1/8 saw them in the act, that's enough for her to be forbidden and she doesn't drink. But here it's Shabo Adam Sheetmila, even if there was no Kini and Sira. Adam came along and said, we saw her in the act. In that case, she doesn't drink and she's forbidden to her husband. Shabo Adam Sheetmila. Well, Maris Anishosa, let's say she refuses to drink. I'm afraid of this whole process. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. I'm not going to drink. I refuse to drink. They can't force her, but they can force her out of the marriage, and she can't eat truma anymore. She's married to a Kohen. He has to divorce her. The husband has to want to do it. The husband has to bring her to Yerushalayim, to the base of Mikdash, and go through the process. If the husband refuses to do it, he doesn't want to do it, fine. So she has to leave the marriage, and that's it. Pardon? He's the one who initiated, but now he doesn't want to see her die in this horrible way of drinking the water and then dropping dead. The pasuk says that she's going to drink the water and it comes down there and messes her all up and she drops dead. Now we'll see, she doesn't necessarily drop dead immediately, but she drops dead. And he doesn't want to go through the whole process. He says, well, I'll just give her a divorce. Or if the husband sinned on the way to court, he slept with her. Don't forget, once there's kini and stira, he's forbidden until it gets determined one way or another. Either she drinks and she's innocent and they go back and they live happily ever after counseling, of course. Or she dies, or they don't go through the process and he just has to divorce her. You don't kill her. There's no Adam and Asra. But let's say there's Adam who saw them in the act, and she's forbidden, and that's it. You don't drink. In these cases, you don't drink either because she admits that she committed adultery, or Adam came and said that they saw her in the act, or she refuses to drink, or he refuses to give a drink, or he himself sinned. If he himself sinned by sleeping with her, learn out of a pasuk that it only works if he's innocent. But if he's guilty for having slept with her subsequent to the kini and stira, then it doesn't work at all, and you don't drink.
So don't seem to focus on eating truma as opposed to divorce, get out.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Same thing. You're just telling you that if you're Kohen, you move Kohen, but it means the same thing. Right, across the board. That's 3 psukim. We'll see 3 words: nitma, and she's also to the husband, also to the adulterer, even if the husband divorces her, and also to eat truma.
She should be able to eat truma.
Well, she can't eat truma really ever again.
Right.
In the cases of where she says Tmeani Lacha or Adam Tmeya, or in those cases, she's basically admitting that she committed adultery, or if she didn't admit it, but there was kini and stira, so she can never eat truma again. You understand? Because she's basically an adulteress. If a woman, once she can't,
even if he doesn't divorce her right away.
Right, you can't eat truma, even while they're still married. Immediately, as soon as it doesn't divorce her right away. Pardon? How does she eat?
Non-truma.
She can eat non-truma food from her husband.
They're
still married. They're still married, but she's under suspicion. She's a sota. So that's the point. That at that point, she can't eat truma, and of course, she has to go through the process, unless it's something where she doesn't go through the process, meaning she doesn't eat truma even if she doesn't drink, even if she refuses to drink. If she admits that she committed adultery or they ate him, or the husband doesn't want to give her to drink, but at that point she's under suspicion, she can never eat truma again. Amar Rav Amram. Now Rav Amram said an interesting thing. Now let's understand. Again, remember, there's a process. We're going to talk about several things. We're alluding to several things that we're going to see later on. There's a carbon that she has to bring. There's a process that she drinks the water. The water determines whether it's a miraculous thing. The water determines whether, it's like having the Batum here. The water determines whether she's guilty or not. If you could, we don't have the water today, obviously, we don't have basic English, we don't have the come to go through the process. But it's a miraculous thing that it works. So Amar of Amram says, Hamil, so Amar of Sheshes. So Sheshes told us the following thing. And he enlightened our eyes from our Mishnah. This lashon of Anherlon Ainin, he enlightened our eyes, meaning he proved it from our Mishnah. Listen carefully. This lashon of Anherlon Ainin. It's brought down 5 times as lashon. It enlightened our eyes. It's brought down 5 times in Talmud Bavli. This is one of them. He enlightened them from our Mishnah. What did he say? Sota sheyesh la'edem din asiyam. If there's Adam, we just said if there's Adam who saw her in the act and they come and testify, that's it. She doesn't drink. She has to leave the marriage, and obviously she can't eat truma. That's it. Sota sheyesh la'edem. Let's say there's Adam, but they didn't come to court here. There's Adam about her. There's Adam who saw it, but they saw it right just as their ship left the dock, and they're not here. So Adam is Sota sheyesh la'edem. There's Adam overseas about that that saw her in the act. Ain't a mind both, so the mind doesn't work. Again, it works miraculously. If there's Adam who saw them in the act, the water doesn't work over here. There's no Adam here, but there's Adam over there. It doesn't work. That's what Rav Sheshes says. It's a big chiddush. Now you might say that's going to be a real problem because that's going to discredit the water effectively. Because we're going to come to that in a minute. Because if there's the water doesn't work. So normally if she drinks and she's fine afterwards, that's okay, she's innocent. Not necessarily. The water doesn't work if there's Adam. How do we know if there's Adam over there? We don't know right now, right? So this is going to be a problem.
What does that mean? Have they given testimony?
The Adam who can give a testimony. Right. We're going to talk about it now. Yeah, it's testimony. They come and give testimony that
They haven't given it yet.
They haven't given it yet, correct.
It's not Adam.
But there are Adam who know the testimony.
We don't know Adam.
Exactly. We haven't. Exactly. That's the question. When are we going to find out? Right. Not fair. Okay. But that's it. What do you mean? Not fair to whom? To the husband. To whom?
Not fair to the system.
Well, okay. Well, that's how it works. That's what Rav Sheshes says it works. We're going to have a dispute about it. Rav Sheshes says. Okay. Well, no. Okay. Exactly. That's what I just said. It's going to discredit the water. It's going to discredit the water, right? That's what you say. So we're going to argue. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be the other opinion. So if Shesha says, as long as there's Adam anywhere in the world who saw them in the act, they're not here right now, the water won't work. Right? That's my time. Don't go to the pasuk. Now he says, based on the pasuk, minister of Behinit Ma. Pasuk says if she will go in seclusion and she'll be defiled, the Adam bun, right? She committed the misconduct. The Adam bun, there's no Adam here. The lekadi yodaba. There's nobody knows about it. Nobody knows about it. There's no Adam. Now we used that pasuk already for telling me that if there's 1 aid, remember there's no 2 aid, but there is 1 aid. If there is 1 aid, she doesn't drink. That's what we used the drasha before, but he's using it for another drasha now. He's saying that, like Rashi says, that ain mikri yesterday pshuto. Yes, the drasha was there's no 2 aidim, and if there's 1 aid, she doesn't drink. But the pashup shot is nisrinit ma, and there's no aidim who about it. Leka the yodaba, nobody knows about it. If somebody knows what took place, what the pasuk says, he warned her. She went into seclusion. And nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. Eight ain't bo. Oh, it's not fair. If there are Adam who saw it, then the process wouldn't work. Oh, you get the that's what he says. He maintains that. Now that's problematic, like you said, and like I said, right? What are you going to do? They ate him over there, and the water is not going to work over here. Anrulon Einin, and he enlightened our eyes, must be from our Mishnah. Our Mishnah we just learned. The Tani says, "V'shabala Adam." What did the Mishnah say? One of the cases where she stops eating truma, and she's forbidden to her husband, is if Adam came and said that she's tamei. Shabala Adam she tamei. The also Adam Amos. When did the Adam come? If it's before she drank, right? If it's before she drank, Zoni, of course she wouldn't drink. If Adam come along and say, forget the Kenyan steer, if Adam come along and say, we saw there's nothing stronger than two Adam in the Torah. Two Adam come along and said, we saw her in the act. She committed adultery. That's it. You have to leave your husband. Can't eat truma, etc. She's a zona. And Rashi says in the third of the wide lines, she did the surba truma. If she says she admits that she's tamei, she admits that she committed it, she doesn't drink. So certainly, if Adam came along and said it, that's even stronger than her own admission. Maybe she's admitting it just to get out of the marriage or something. Adam come along and say nothing stronger than that. So when did these Adam come? If Adam came and said she's can't eat truma, when? If they came before she drank, so of course she's a zon. Of course she wouldn't drink, and she's forbidden. Maybe they came after she drank. Wait a minute. After she drank, the Adam came. Now, Rav Shapiro says if the water doesn't check her if there's Adam, okay, makes sense. It makes sense. What happened? She drank. The water didn't check her because there are Adam. So she looked okay. Now Adam come along and say that she committed the act. Okay, so she can't live with her husband. The water didn't prove it. If you say that the water checks her, even if there are Adam in the world, right? So Tigli Muslim afraid it comes out retroactively. The Sada Shakri, these are liars. The Adam must be liars. What are we saying? The water checks her. Not like Rav Shesha. Rav Shesha says, if it's true, we're going the other way around, right? Rav Shesha says, if there's Adam anywhere, the water won't check her. You know what the proof is? Adam came in our Mishnah. They didn't come before she drank, otherwise she wouldn't drink. So when did they come? They came after she drank, right? But if the water checks her, even if there's Adam overseas, the fact that she's okay now and the water didn't kill her shows that the Adam are liars, right? The Adam say that she committed adultery. The water says she didn't commit adultery. The water is miraculous. It's like the word of God. So it shows that the Adam are liars. How do we say over here, if Adam came along and said that she committed adultery, right, that she doesn't eat truma and that's it, then we believe them. She doesn't eat truma, she has to leave her husband. What do you mean? If Rav Shesha is wrong, and he says, if there's Adam in the world, the water still works. So if the water worked and she didn't die, that means that she didn't commit adultery. So when the Adam come along and say now she committed adultery, they're liars. It's God's word against the two Adam, so to speak, right? So that Elamai must be that you know why it works in our Mishnah. Why are the Adam believed? Because the water didn't work. The water doesn't work when there's Adam around. That's his proof from our Mishnah. Yeah, you understand that? So it must be that the water doesn't work when there's Adam around.
So
We don't know that there's Adam, like Irving said. No, the Adam came along later on. At the time she drank, we didn't know. If there was Adam before she drank, she wouldn't drink, right? It says Adam came along. It said in our Mishnah, if Adam came along, when? Before she drank? So of course, he said, if she admits herself that she committed adultery, she doesn't drink. Certainly if Adam come along, I don't need to tell me that. Why did the Mishnah tell us if Adam came along and said that she committed adultery, we saw her in the act, she doesn't have to drink? Of course she doesn't have to drink. She herself admits that she doesn't have to drink. Certainly if Adam come along, must be that it's speaking about, she didn't admit it, so she didn't admit it, so she drank. Well, if it's before she drank, then of course you don't need that. If she herself admitted, so certainly if Adam, must be after she drank. Well, after she drank, how can the Adam come along and tell us that she believed? If she drank and nothing happened to her, that means that she's innocent. So when the Adam come along and say now that she committed adultery, they're liars because it's God's word against them, so to speak. Elamai must be no. You know why the Adam are believed? Because if there's Adam anywhere in the world, the water doesn't work. Now that's problematic in another way, but we'll see. Let's see. Amar Rav Yosef, no. The water does work. Even if there's Adam, the water does work. But we go with this idea. When she drinks, she doesn't always immediately die, says Rebbe, or even Rabban agree with that too. She doesn't always immediately die. Sometimes, like she did a lot of good things. She worked in the soup kitchen. She did stucco. She was a good woman till her Yetzer Hara got the better of her and she committed adultery. So those merits that she had suspends the water from working immediately. It'll work, she'll die later on, but it doesn't work immediately. So it could be over here. Don't say over here. What did the Adam coming along? If the Adam come along and say that she committed adultery and the water said she didn't, the water didn't say she didn't. The water doesn't work always immediately. As the Mishnah is going to say later. So therefore, it could be that the water does work. You want to say, Rav Sheshes wants to say it's big chiddush. If there's Adam anywhere in the world, the water doesn't work. Why? Because otherwise, in our Mishnah, how does it work? The Adam came after she drank. If the water works and she didn't die, that means the Adam are liars. So how can you believe the Adam? The answer is must be that the water doesn't work. So Rabbi Yosef, no, the water works. It just doesn't work right away. It's if she drinks, the chus that she had, mitzvahs that she had, suspended, and it takes a little time for it to work. And since over here, okay, and said by mitzvahs told us, maybe that's working for her, but the water maybe does work. More. Good. So let's finish it. So my kamiflaki, what's machlokas between Rav Sheshes and Rav Yosef? The misnavna, the Rebbe, when she deteriorates, when she gets ill from the water. Rebbe, the Tanan. This is the Mishnah that says later on. Rebbe Yomer schus told ma'amarim merits help. In other words, doesn't work right. The Ainio lettuce, she doesn't give birth afterwards. In other words, she doesn't become good. The Ainam Mishabechas, she doesn't thrive. She doesn't become better. She gets ill, she deteriorates a little bit. So then she dies from the same sickness that the Torah says. Her stomach falls out, her thighs fall apart. It's a misa mishuna that she dies from. That's what Rebbe says, but it helps immediately. So over here, Rav Sheshes Savar, right? That's what Rebbe says later on. Rav Sheshes Savar bein Rabbanan. Whether it's Rebbe who says this, so the Rabbanan having misnam that she deteriorates. The question of machlokas only is according to Sheshes between Rebbe and the Rabbanan whether she actually dies from that same thing later on. But everybody agrees that she does deteriorate immediately. As soon as she drinks it, she deteriorates. She doesn't die immediately, but she deteriorates immediately. So over here, since she doesn't deteriorate, right? Everybody agrees that she deteriorates right away. So since over here she drank the water and she didn't deteriorate, either it means that the water doesn't work when there's Adam around, which Sheshes maintains, or it means that the water doesn't work, or it means that the Adam are liars, one of the two. And the Mishnah says that you believe the Adam. So it must be that the water doesn't work. Why? Because she didn't deteriorate right away. That's what Rashi says, 6 lines from the bottom of the page, or 7 lines. That's the reason. That's what Sheshes maintains. Rav Yosef says no. Rav Yosef Savar, the Rebbe of a snab. The Rebbe holds that she deteriorates immediately, even if she doesn't die immediately. But the Rabbanan love him a snabda. But Rabbanan say she doesn't deteriorate at all. It takes a long time for it to work. So it's very possible that what happened over here? She drank the water. She was really guilty, so she should have died. No, schus tolula takes a long time. Just start. It's a slow process. Right away, she doesn't look like anything happened. Then Adam came along. Adam saw in the papers that there was a whole thing in the Beis Hamikdash. She's drinking the water. They came across and they said that she did commit adultery. Fine, she doesn't drink. So she's also eating truma. Even though it appears in court, she drank. She drank. Nothing happened to her. They're all clapping. Hey, she's innocent, right? She's innocent. That's the way it looked. But then Adam came along later and said that we know she committed adultery. That's Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef disagrees with Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes says if there's Adam anywhere in the world, the water does not work. Comes along Rav Yosef to say no, the water could work, but sometimes it takes a long time for it to work, and you can't tell. So you can't say that it must be that the Adam are liars if she survived the drink. No, she survived the drink, but eventually she might die. So the water does work. Even though it's Adam. Yeah.
She doesn't start deteriorating immediately.
Yeah, that's a sign.
I understand.
Yeah.
Essentially, the Torah is allowing her to eat truma when she's not allowed to eat truma.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. That would be a problem. Or maybe they suspend her eating until we see if it takes effect. It might take a long time to take effect. Maybe we suspend her anyway for a long time until we know. That's right. According to Shita. But what about her husband? What?
Can't sleep with her.
What should he do? Yeah. At that point, she's still so. Yeah. How long do you give them? You give them a certain amount of time to wait to see if she deteriorates. Right. He doesn't have to divorce her yet. Because the water eventually may determine that she doesn't. Now that's Rebbe says she immediately, but according to Rav Yosef, Rav Sheshes says everybody holds she deteriorates immediately, so you could tell. Rav Yosef, according to Rabbanan, would be a little bit of a problem. right? According to Rabbanan, who say that she doesn't deteriorate at all, just dies eventually, that could be a problem. Masr of Sheshis, Masr of Shimi Barashi says, no, Rav Shimon now disagrees with this whole concept of Rebbe. Rav Shimon says, Ein schus tola of my marm, merit doesn't help. If you say that the schus helps and she doesn't die immediately because she has schuyot, you discredit the water in the face of all women. Women aren't going to be afraid to drink now. We encourage them. Look, when there's kini and stira, there's reglaim l'davar, she committed adultery. This woman is under suspicion. We try to discourage her from drinking. He says, you know what's going to happen to you. They don't want to go through this whole mess. They rip off her clothes. It's a big busha for the family. Everybody talks about it. That could be one of the reasons why the husband doesn't want to go through with it. And we try, and also we don't want to blot out Hashem's name on the parchment that they construct the Mayim Amarim from. So people will think, oh, listen, I know that lady. She's a slut. I know she committed adultery and she didn't die right away. I'll drink too. In other words, you're going to discredit the water, right? Not only that, discredit some if they call Nashim Hashosas who drink and say, yeah, V'atamotzi Shem Ra La Toros. Also, the people who drank and nothing happened to them, you'll say, well, she doesn't mean she's innocent. Maybe it takes a long time for it to affect. Maybe it's chus tolala. So you're going to be motzi shema effectively about the women who are innocent. They drank and they were really innocent. You say, who says they're innocent? Maybe it just didn't work yet. So that's what's shashasu v'heinom tameyasayu. They were really defiled. Ela shetolim schus. V'misa. That's what Shimon says. And if you say Rav Sheshis, now Rav Sheshis, you Rav Sheshis who say that the water doesn't work when there's Adam anywhere in the world, Yesh Adam Dina Sayam. If you say that if there's Adam overseas, Nami that the water doesn't work, Atamotzi Shema La Taros. You'll also have Motzi Shemra on the pure woman, the women who were not defiled, Sheshasu, V'heinom Tameyasayu Al Shayish Al Meresosiyam. In other words, according to Rav Shimon, who says that you can't say that there's chus tola because otherwise you remote the shame on the water. The water should work immediately, and if it doesn't work, if you're saying it doesn't work when there's a chus for her, so people will say, you see, she did commit adultery, but she has some mitzvahs that's keeping her away. If you say also there's Adam somewhere else, so people will also say here too, why doesn't Rav Shimon use that excuse and say if you hold that if there's Adam anywhere in the world the water doesn't work? So also say that, she drank. Nothing happened to her. She's not even teared. Oh, you know why? Because there's Adam somewhere in the world. So the water doesn't work at all till the Adam show up. So why doesn't he say that? I'm saying, they were really defiled, except that they have Adam, and that's what's preventing the water from working. So the Gemara's answer is, you're asking a kasha according to Rav Shimon. Rav Shimon comment. Rav Shimon, since Rav Shimon holds that schus doesn't help to suspend the water's effect. Rav Shimon will say, Rav Sheshis is saying according to Rabbanan, according to Rebbe, who holds that schus tola, that schus suspends the water's effect. But Rav Shimon holds that the schus doesn't suspend the water's effect, so neither does Adam existing somewhere else. Maybe Rav Shimon holds that way, but we're asking according to Rabbanan. So we'll ask another kasha on Rav Sheshis. Again, Rav Sheshis says that if there's Adam anywhere in the world, the water does not work. Masav Rav, pardon?
Where you commit a sin, you are supposed to get a certain punishment. You don't get the punishment because it's tola.
Oh, I thought you were going to have something else. Probably there are. Many times the punishment. Yeah. No, when you talk about kares and things like that, or other punishments that you're supposed to get b'dei shemayim, for sure. Again, this is like a punishment min hashemayim. This is also a punishment min hashemayim, because how does the water work? You're just drinking some dirty water. It's also min hashemayim. I think you're going to ask, is there anywhere else where we have such a clear sign from heaven? Think about it. You don't have the Urim V'Tumim anymore in Bayesheni, and this is something which is an unbelievable thing. You can force God's hand, it's like you bring rain. Is there rain? Well, there's, God forbid, there's no God. No, here we have a case where you make something work miraculously. It's unbelievable. That I don't think there's anything else like that. I don't think so. It's physical. No, only if you think it's going to work, or you think, the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah says it works. If you're guilty, it works.
Never.
By what?
Meiser.
Yeah.
You say it. God says, give Meiser.
And I will. But
I'm going to give back.
That's right. That's right. But it's not clearly evident to everybody in the street. You go to find it. Maybe you do. You might make the 10 million on the stock market. 10 years later, we don't know when it's going to happen. Here it's supposed to happen immediately. according to Rebbe and the Rabbanan, apparently, according to Rav Sheshes, the Rabbanan only disagree in terms of how she eventually dies, but they agree that it does suspend it. Rav Yosef, right? That it does suspend. Rav Shimon says it doesn't suspend it at all. Otherwise, you're motzi shem on the water. You're going to say, really? She committed adultery. The water doesn't work right away because she has schuyot. That's what Shimon says. The Rebbe says no. The water could be suspended by her schuyot. It doesn't always happen immediately. However, she does immediately start to deteriorate. Give it a day or two, or even maybe immediately. She starts coughing it up, and you see some effect on her. She doesn't die right away. Now, Masav Rav, it's were there ever cases like that? Right?
Were there ever
cases like that? We'll see.
I don't
remember cases. I don't remember we have saw cases where
with murder it says once in
70 years. Right. Here I don't recall, but we'll see. We still have a few weeks to finish him. We have a few weeks to finish him a second, right? So we'll see. Yeah. Right.
The reason you have this strange kind of situation, punishment, is because it's only the woman. And you can't, it's only the woman really who's
not only the woman.
I understand, but she's the central character.
No. But the adulterer dies too. She drinks, she dies, and the adulterer. Who? He doesn't have to drink. She dies too. He dies too.
Yeah, he doesn't drink.
He doesn't drink, so that's the procedure. That's she right.
You don't want Matt, Besden here have to deal with.
In the introductory Shiur, Dapim, Sota.
You're asking a question. Yes, question the Torah. Why does the Torah prescribe it that way? But the fact is, he dies too. He dies too.
There may be also a logic to it because it's kinna, but you have to have somebody who's.
Yeah, I understand, but why isn't he warned as well? You go through the whole process. So let's say this Kinnan Stever, make him drink.
He has no.
She's the one who violates. Right. Okay. These are all nice answers, but we go by what the Torah said. The Torah said that's how you do it. She drinks, and if she committed adultery, she dies, and the adulterer dies at the same time, even though he didn't drink. It's a bigger miracle. Here you can say the water had some physical effect. He dies miraculously as well. Masavra. Now, when she brings the carbon, it's called the carbon mincha. It's a carbon mincha. It's a mincha where you don't add any nice spices and oil and stuff like that. It's a very simple mincha. It's a mincha sote of the sota. And it's brought from barley, not wheat, not as a choice as the carbon omer that we bring from this week. It will be the carbon omer on Friday. Basically, just rebuilt on Friday. We'll bring the carbon omer the second day of Pesach, right? That's also brought from barley. Those are the only two carbon minchas that are brought from barley. Other ones are brought from wheat. In any case, this carbon mincha that she brings, Elish mincha saying, what happens? You brought the carbon mincha, and then something happened, and you stop the process. The carbon mincha is the prelude to her drinking. You have to bring the carbon mincha, and then she drinks. Now, the carbon mincha, what is a mincha? Mincha is a flour offering, right? So the first thing is after you prepare the flour, you have to take the handful. You remember the komates, right? You take the komates. That's like shchita. Remember shchita, kabbalah, chazrika, the four processes. By carbon mincha, you also you take the komates. You put that after you've sanctified it in a klisharis, the flour itself. You take a komates. Remember the fistful in this form, right? You take it like that, and the Kohen puts it in another klisharis. That's like Kabbalah, like the Kabbalah Saddam. Then you take it to the Mizbeach, and then you burn that on the Mizbeach, which is like the Zrika Saddam. Okay, so it says over there, when you burn that, now these minchas, you arrest the process in middle, and you don't go through the whole process of burning the komets on the Mizbeach, but rather you stop in the middle, you take the carbon mincha and you burn it. You burn it not on the Mizbeach. On the side of the Mizbeach was called the Beis Hadeshin. There's actually 4 Beis Hadeshins. One is where they put the ashes in the morning next to the ramp, next to the Kevish. This is one that's next to the Mizbeach in the Azar. There's 2 others, one on the Har HaBayis and one outside Yerushalayim. Not for now. So Omeres Tamei, let's say she says in middle, she got, they started doing their carbon, and she says, no, she says, I give up. I admit that I did it, and I don't want to drink. Omeres Tamei ani. Or Shebola Adam she Tamei. Or Adam came and said that she's Tamei. Now, again, in that case, what do? You burn the carbon mincha. The asu Adam emes. When did they come? If the Adam came before the flour was sanctified in the first klishares, so why do you have to burn it? It goes chulin, though you haven't sanctified the flour yet. It's just regular flour. Why do you say you have to burn it like a carbon that's puzzle? Carbon that's puzzle, you burn it next to the base, next to the mizbech, not on the mizbech. You burn it the base addition. Why do you have to burn it? It hasn't been sanctified. Ella Basa de Kaddish.
It's in the first Shiur. It's not Kodesh already?
No, it's not in the Klisharis yet. It's not in the first Klisharis. If you either Makamidish before you were makdish it at all, you haven't even put it in the Klisharis, it should be chulin. It's not, you haven't sanctified it yet. Why do you have to burn it? Ella the Basa de Kaddish. After you put it in the first Klisharis, that's when they came along and said that she is tamei. So listen carefully. If you say not like Rav Sheshes, but rather the water works even if there's Adam elsewhere, okay, I understand. Because the water is going to work anyway. Let's remember the carbon is part of the process of her drinking. If you say that even if there's Adam, the water works, so you once you put it in the Klishares, it's Kodesh. And now Adam came along and said that she was defiled. Okay. So it was Kodesh. She could have drunk, even though there's Adam, but we didn't know about the Adam now. So the water would have worked. So there was a reason why the mincha could be Kodesh, and if you put it in the Klisharis, she is the mincha is Kodesh, and you have to burn it. You have to burn it next to the mizbeach. Umikrivi, it's bas mikdash umikrivi. It's capable of being sanctified and being offered on the mizbeach. V'chi kadosh mi'ikara shapar kadosh. When you were makdish, it makes sense. In other words, when you were makdish the mincha in the Klisharis, even though there's Adam somewhere else, we're saying not the mayim would have worked, not like Rav Sheshes. The mayim would have worked. Then it makes sense why you have to burn it. That's why the mincha is burnt now, because it was holy. If you say that the water wouldn't work, that means that the whole thing was brought on a mistake, meaning the water's not going to work. So there's no point in the mincha. The whole mincha is the prelude to her drinking, and drinking because to determine whether she's guilty or not. But if you say if there's Adam somewhere else in the world, the water wouldn't work. Eli Amrit ain't a mind both, so like Rav Shesha says, so Tigla Muslim Frey comes out retroactively, Kaddish Mikara, but Tos Kaddish comes out that when you were makdish, if you put it in the Klisharis, you put it in the Klisharis, but it was a mistake. With the Hegdish Batos, we had before, remember Machlokes Beisom B'Shamai, Hegdish Batos, Rashi says exactly halfway down on the page, Hegdish Batos ain't a Hegdish. So the whole thing was a mistake. It's not Kaddish at all. The fact that we say that you burn it shows you that it was kadosh. Initially, it was kadosh, mashma that the water would work despite the fact that there's Adam in the world. It says Shabbo Adam Shitmeya. When did the Adam come? If they came before you started the whole thing, before they even put the mincha in the Klishares, so then why does it have to be burnt? They haven't sanctified it yet. Elamai came in afterwards. They came after you sanctified it. But if it wouldn't work because there's Adam, if the water wouldn't work, the whole sanctification was a mistake. I'm Rav Yehuda Miskarta could go in Shazins the Bazar. I'll tell you what happened. There was Kini and Stira. Listen carefully. There was Kini and Stira, right? And what happened? She hadn't been Mazana yet. There was Kini and Stira. Not like we're saying. What happens when there's Kini and Stira? He's Makana, right? He warns her. She goes into a room, there's Stira, and we assume that maybe she committed adultery in there. And if there's Adam, if she committed adultery, fine. So then she doesn't drink, even if there's one aid, right? We say. But over here, it's not speaking about where she committed adultery there. She committed adultery later on. First, it's a weird case. There was Kini and Stira. She came to the base of Mikdash. She denied that she had done anything, right? She came to the base of Mikdash. She was makdish the mincha. Then she committed adultery in the base of Mikdash. After she was makdish. So at the time that she was makdish the mincha, the Kohanim did it for her. By the time she was makdish it, she hadn't yet committed adultery. There couldn't have been any Adam yet. That's why they became Kodesh. The Chi Kodesh, Mikar, Shap Kodesh. When she was sanctified, it was okay because she hadn't committed adultery. There couldn't have been Adam yet. It didn't take place yet. Masmum Shesha, how could such a thing take place? Wait. You're all asking the same question as the Gemara. Masmum Shasha, below Pirchekuna Malabnosa. Number one, she's escorted there. The Pirchekuna, the young Kohanim there, escorted her. What do you mean she committed adultery? She says, listen, one of them committed adultery. She seduced one of these little boys, one of these young men. She's in some Pirchekuna Atzma. Ravashi Amar going, she had an excuse, the old excuse, had to go to the bathroom. Bathroom break, sorry boss, bathroom break. She had to go to the bathroom, right? So they couldn't take her to the bathroom. Why? Did the young Kohanim hold on to her hat, like hold on to her headgear when she said they have to let her go to the bathroom. When she went to the bathroom, she seduced somebody over there. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about. But no, at that point, no, whatever she was wearing on her head, whatever. No, that's what I'm saying. That she's not tied to them. They're not, she's not tied to them. They go to the bathroom. That's how they always escape in the movies, right? They go to the bathroom and then they figure out some climb out the window, right? So that's what happened over here. She committed that. So this is a very strange case. Saying that that's the way it worked because there was no Adam yet. The adultery took place afterwards. So she was makdish the mincha before when it was legitimately the water would have worked. And now she committed adultery afterwards. This is too far out. Like we said originally before, we're not going to have this case where the adultery was not at the time of the stira originally. The adultery was later on in the base of English. No, the adultery was before. Now you say if that's the case, if you're saying like Rav Sheshes, that what the water doesn't work when there's Adam, so the mincha wasn't kadosh either, it was a mistake, and she go you're right. It is chulin. The truth is, right, it is chulin. It doesn't work. The water wouldn't work. According to Rav Sheshes, the water wouldn't work because there's Adam. Therefore, the mincha was a mistake when she was makdish it, and it really is chulin. And you could put it back and take it and eat it for lunch sometime. You don't have to burn it, but we burn it midrabanan because people shouldn't say that. Oh, look, you could take carbon mincha that was already in a klisha race and eat it for lunch outside. Take it outside. It's only drabanan. Maser of Mari. Wait a minute. You think so? You think that the rabbanan were gozer, and that the reason we burn it is that because of gezer drabanan? He's asking Kashan. Maser of Mari. Nittas minchasa. Listen carefully now. Let's say her mincha became tameh. Tameh means you can't use it on the base of mikdash. He hadn't yet been makadosh in the kli. Meaning, what is it? It's just flour over here. You could be poted. Yes, it has a kedushas like damim, so to speak. It hadn't yet put in the klisharis. It doesn't have kedushas guf like an animal, like an animal, a bull or a lamb or a goat that was kadosh kedushas guf. It's like all minchas you could be poted. You could be poted for something else. It's tamei now. Be poted. It loses it goes back to chulin, and you take the money that you were poted for and buy other mincha. If it became tamei before, you put it in the kli shards. Misha kitcha bekli. Once you were makadosh in the kli, then rekom machas it says it has to be burned. Or let's say kiddush hakom. It makes no difference really. Even for them say whether once you're makadosh in the kli, it's got to be burned because it has kedusha. What if it became tamei? Oh, let's say kiddush hakometz. Let's say the komets, the handful that you take out, which is the equivalent of shchita, you're makash. You didn't get a chance to be makabit on the mizbeach, which is what you do. You take the komets, you put it in a klisharis, you take it to the mizbeach and you burn it. You didn't get a chance. Let's say one of them died. If the husband died, there's no point in drinking it because you're not getting the whole purpose to be matzah her back to her husband, right? So if he died, or if she died, certainly no point in drinking now. It's burned. Karaba komets. Let's say you bought the komets, meaning you finished all the 4 processes, just like Shkita Kabbalah and Zrika. You did the komets, the Kabbalah, putting it in the klishares, holacha, and burning on mizbeach. Karaba komets. What do you do with a carbon mincha? If it's a minchas kohen, the whole thing is burned. If it's a carbon mincha is like a chatas ola and asham that it's kachi kachim. Only kohanim could eat it. A normal mincha is eaten by the kohanim. After you did the komets and you burnt it on the mizbech, the rest of it's eaten by the shraim or eaten by the kohanim. Unless it's a mincha of a kohen, then it's all burnt. But this is a regular mincha, not of a kohen, and the kohanim get to eat it. So let's say karva komets and you didn't get a chance to eat lech b'shraim ad shemesu until one of them died. Then there's nothing wrong with that. Everything was processed. Of course, she wouldn't drink at this point because one of them, either she's dead or he's dead. But the regular mincha could be eaten. It was brought originally not knowing if she's going to be. The whole point of it is that what is a sota is an alleged adulteress. It's a suffix. If you know for sure committed adultery, she doesn't drink. So it was brought on a suffix. Kippur sveika b'ochala. Her suffix and sota is being atoned. It doesn't mean an atonement that she's innocent or guilty. Rashi, right before the lines get very wide. Kipra minchazu asfeika high kapar lav kapar salv. It doesn't mean this is an atonement for a sin. Lost karsav. It's not a remembrance of the sin. Rashi said at the top of the page that the whole point of drinking is einabar elahaskir onish shalzu shetibadek. Right? It's got to be checked. If there's nothing for her to check, you don't bring the carbon mincha. Elakapari aruyala. She's done everything right. You brought the carbon, everything is right, except they died now. But the carbon is okay. There's nothing wrong with the carbon, and the Kohen can eat it. That's what he goes. That's what the Gemara says. We're back in the Gemara. That's done. Bola Adam she Tmeya. Listen to this. Let's say Adam came along and said that she's Tameh Minchas and Esrefas, right? Wherever Adam came along, of course you burn it at that point because, as we said before, because Adam have come, as we said before, and we asked before, when did the Adam come? But we said, okay, the Adam came after they were mocked the shit. And really, what are we saying now? That if the Adam came along after they were mocked the shit, it turns out that they were Adam around the point of Sheshis, that means that the water wouldn't work and it was all a mistake. Really, it is chulin, except you burned Rabbanan. Wait a minute. Nimsu Adam Zoman, let's say the Adam turned out to be liars. So what happened? Minchas chulin. And there's the Adam who testified about it were liars. Therefore, what happened? She didn't really commit the adultery, and therefore, and she didn't have to. But in other words, Adam just came along. There was no Kinyan Steer. Adam came along and said that she was well. There must have been Kinyan Steer because otherwise you wouldn't have been Karmincha. But let's say the Adam who testified her turned out to be liars. Adam came along afterwards and said that then it turns out that they were lies. The whole thing wasn't true. Then Minchas chulin. It's chulin. Now, what do you say over here? Why don't you say you burn it anyway? Why don't you say you burn it anyway? What did Rav Papa say before? Was Rav Papa who gave that answer? Rav Papa, yeah, like really the minchas chulin. Except we burn it to Rabbanan and say Hashem Yomer Motzim, because people shouldn't say that you take something in the klishares and you could and you turn it back into chulin. So we burn it anyway. Why don't you burn it anyway? If that's true, that even if it's tahor, it's chulin. Midaraisa, the rabbis always said you should burn it once it hit a klishares. Why over here you say minchas chulin? They also say over here also midarabana you should burn it. The answer is that's not a kasha for Adam Zoman. Adam Zoman, come here, you're asking about Adam Zoman. Adam Zoman kolaslu. If it was Adam Zoman, everybody would know about it. And they'll know that the reason why it's chulin is because the whole thing was a mistake. The whole thing was a mistake, and therefore they were lies. Now, what he's telling, if it's Adam Zoman, so if it's Adam Zoman, right? So l'chora, if the nimtzo Adam Zoman edis li rasa shleidekach, meaning not the Adam who said that she committed adultery. Adam on the stira. Remember, we said before that there's according to Yeshua, there's the two Adam who said that she was stira, or even one Adam. Let's say they were liars, so there was no stira. That's the point. Bolo Adam she tmeya, amikar koi kodamaktar. But the Bola Adam case where Adam came she tmeya, that's going on before amikar koi kodamaktar, before you burnt it. If Adam came in the middle, you burn the thing. Not if Adam came after you did your mock of the comments. Once you burnt the comments on the mizbeach, then everything was done properly and they could eat it. Okay, but if Adam came before, you burn it. But Nimsu Adam Zoman, Rashi says is there was no stira. Therefore, there's no drinking. Therefore, there's no process at all. So if Adam come along, it's chulin. But what do you said if min rabbanan, you burn it anyway, so people shouldn't say that you have something that was nikdash in the klishares, and you could take it out and make it chulin right now. The rabbanan say anyway you should burn it. If that's the case, why don't you burn it over here too? That's not as far to say it's only rabbanan because people shouldn't talk. By Adam Zoman, you don't say that. You say it's chulin. The answer is you can't discuss Adam Zoman. Why? Because Adam Zoman kol islu. There's a kol. Everybody knows about it. It's well known that you heard the whole thing was a lie. She was never in stira at all. She was a fine woman. The husband gave her kidney, but there was no stira, no drinking, no process, nothing. Everybody knows that, and that's why it became chulin. Therefore, it's not a kasha. Tiny goes. So the two kashas that we had on Rav Sheshes, one from Rav Shimon, that was answered. That's Rav Shimon Shita, and this kasha from Chossein is also not a good answer because you could say that the reason it's burnt is only drabanan. It's only drabanan, but really the water doesn't work. Now listen carefully. There's a brisa like Rav Sheshes. When there's Adam in the world, the water doesn't work. The water doesn't work at all. The water doesn't work at all. Rav Yosef said, no, the water works, but maybe it's delayed, right? Like a delayed penalty. Tanya Kavah said Rav Sheshes, Velabmi Tameh, but not for his reasoning. Because we said before, what's Rav Sheshes' reasoning? Because it says, Rav Sheshes said, Eid Ba. Ministry of Eid Ba, if there's nobody who knows about it. If somebody knows about it, then the process doesn't work. That's what he said before. And that reason is not the greatest reason, because we already used for Eid Ba for a different Russia. What? For we said that if there's one aide who saw them in act after getting seen, she doesn't drink. But there's a Dapim for a different reason. Pasuk says, Rashi quotes the Pasuk near the bottom of the page, Tahora, 5 lines from the bottom of the page in Rashi. It says pasuk is imlo nitma. If she wasn't defiled, if she didn't sin, didn't commit the misconduct, utahorahi, and she is pure. Those words are extra. She didn't commit. That's obvious. She's clean, right? Imlo nitma isha. What is v'torahi? V'nixim nisrazara. She is innocent, and she will have children, and they'll live happily ever after. Why? Pasuk says tahora. That word tahora is extra. You know what's Torah teach me? If she's really tahor, but not if there's Adam overseas. If there's Adam overseas, no, then it doesn't work. Tahora, the extra above there. The above teaches me when would she go ahead and get clean, etc. Not a woman whose punishment was suspended because of merits that she had. Again, only when does it work and she'll have children and live happily ever after? Number one, there's no Adam overseas. Number two, not a case where because she had merits, the water doesn't work right away. This shows you that this drasha is a drasha that the water doesn't work if she has, or it's delayed. The water can be delayed. Because the tahora is extra. Tahora. So tahora is teaching me Adam minasayam. Tahora teaches me tosalas chus. None of people are talking about her. If all the women who sit in the evening out in the moonlight and sit and spin and talk, the women talk. If women are talking about her, it doesn't work either. Another strange thing, right? If women are talking about, everybody knows, she was a slut. She committed adultery. Everybody knows she really did it. Then the water doesn't work either. So the water does not work if there's either Adam overseas, or the water might be suspended if she has a schus, or if people are talking about it. So the Gemara says, Rav Shimon. Remember, Rav Shimon said, you can't say the water doesn't work, because if the water doesn't work, you're going to be motzi shemra on the water and on the people who are innocent. Rav Shimon, he devav lo darish, so maybe he doesn't darish in the vav of tosel l'schus, but v'hika yesh la'edem dinasiyam. He might not darish in the vav, so he holds that he doesn't hold the tosel l'schus that it's suspended by her schuyot. But you have a pasuk for tahora. Tahora says this is a drush according to everybody. Below sheish l'nisayam. So you must hold of that. So it's a v'hika yesh la'edem dinasiyam lo shchicha, meaning it's not shchich. Meaning, what did we say? Shimon said in Aleph. We said Shimon says you can't say schus tola because otherwise you're motzi shemer on her, on the water, and on her, right? So why don't you also say if there's Adam overseas, if Adam overseas prevents the water from working, why don't you also motzi shemer and say, you know what? She didn't die. I'll tell you why she didn't die, because there's Adam overseas. Why isn't he concerned? He says the water cannot be. You can't say that merits suspend the punishment, because otherwise you're motzi shemer on the water and on the women. So why don't you say also if this mission goes to everybody, the word Torah teaches us that if there's Adam overseas, the water doesn't work. So why aren't you concerned about that too? That people will say that really she's guilty, but the water doesn't work because Adam overseas. That's lo shchichas, and it's not common. Lo maski and shadai to Rashi's at the top page. People aren't going to say, it doesn't work. People will say if they see the water is suspended, that many people drink in their tummy and it doesn't have an effect right away. You're going to be motzi shemer on the water, or you're going to say that that they're either on the water or on the women. But that they might think of, but they're not going to say maybe there's Adam overseas. That's it's not common. They're going to say really that she's innocent. She's not innocent except there's Adam overseas. We said that according to Rav Shimon, since schus doesn't help, neither do the Adam overseas. That was before we had this drush, and this drush is according to everybody. So it comes out that not only Rav Sheshes say this, and the two questions on him were defended on our daf, but there's also a brisa which says like Rav Sheshes, not for his reason, but from the word Torah. So it comes out that there are Adam, if there are Adam overseas who knew about it, water doesn't work. And according to Rebbe and Rabbanan, if she has shchuyot, that also suspends it from happening right away, but she does deteriorate, right? Or if people are talking about it, if everybody's talking about it, the water doesn't work either. So the water doesn't always work. All right, pick up the mission tomorrow, Mr. Have a good day.
What do you do to the 80? Yeah, I was thinking.